Take a look at what's making headlines in the newspapers with the Herald Editor, Rochelle de Kock, joining us. Rochelle, morning to you. We'll get to what's happening on the front page of the Herald in a moment. I see a tragic story, but just before we get to that, Mogoeng leaving a mammoth legacy is what the Star newspaper is leading with at the moment. His term has ended.
Good morning. Yes, I mean, we all would have heard, news all day yesterday about Justice Mogoeng's last day in office. And we all know that there were some concerns, a few years ago when he was appointed by then President Jacob Zuma over Deputy Justice Mothotoane. But over the years, I think he had, come into his own and really had some monumental judgments. I mean, we only have to think of the eNCA judgment, perhaps, one of his most memorable judgments in his judicial career that he'll be remembered for. But, yeah, Justice Mogoeng, he's had somewhat of a good and a little bit of a controversial legacy. He was, it was not without any controversies if we look at his utterances on religion and vaccines, and even, I suppose the most recent being his public statement on this, questioning the safety of vaccines,
right.
Which some felt was reckless, particularly at a time when thousands of people were dying of this virus.
Yeah.
So I think he's had his innings, yeah.
That's one of the stories in the Star newspapers, but also I just want to highlight the second story, their criteria for appointments of bigwigs. It seems the government has reiterated the proper processes, to be followed, Rochelle, in the appointment and remuneration of special advisors by cabinet ministers and premiers. I suppose this was an important one there for government to highlight.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know that government is battling a bloated wage bill, and I think that's definitely one place to start. To put in place, and regulate to an extent how many ministers how many special advisors they can have, and it's up to 2 full-time special advisors for ministers and premiers. But the president and his deputy can really appoint as many as they see fit.
Let's move over to the Witness. Morning, KZN. If you are joining us, this is what the Witness has. City power woes are catastrophic, but that's not the story we're looking at. It's not good news, is it? Rochelle, survivor describing KZN boat tragedy. We're just trying to get our tourism sector up and going again, and now we're having to report on this boat tragedy down in that part of the world. This was at Jozini Dam. It was a houseboat fire, I understand.
Yes. Yes. It was such a traumatic, incident where 6 people, had to jump from this boat and to safety. And you hear the words of one of the survivors who even speaks about how he tried to save his father. This was a German tourist. It was absolutely heartbreaking, and there's still one body that's missing out at sea. But it's absolutely tragic what happened out there.
Also, to this story that we've all been dreading, but quite important to talk about, sure. Rochelle, the Herald, they're leading with the story around families frozen in grief. The pictures of the, children there, as well as the teacher was behind the wheel, as well as, one of the close friends there. But I think what was more disheartening for me to read is how a policeman called to the scene, normal day at work, only to find that he's about to identify his child's body.
Oh, it's such a tragedy. 4 young people, the youngest being 14 in grade 8, dying in this very tragic accident at about midnight on Saturday. And I think it was absolutely heartbreaking to hear, from this policeman who was, goes about his business and attends to accidents, and then you get there and one of the people in the accident is your own daughter. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I know these kids were rushing home, in time for curfew, and it's just no one expected to lose, their family members in this way. It's a really heartbreaking moment for the people of Gqeberha.
Sure. That's what's one of the stories on the front page of the Herald this morning, and it is Rochelle de Kock from the Herald joining us this morning. That's what's happening in their newspaper. Rochelle, always a pleasure having you with us. I'm sure we'll chat again in a few days' time. Thank you very much for joining us on eNCA. All right.